Okay, today we're going to talk about the long run aggregate supply curve. And I think it's important for us to understand that the long run aggregate supply curve is really made up of an economy's potential aggregate supply. So the short run aggregate supply is all about what we're currently supplying. Long run aggregate supply is if we take a look at the potential for each business in our economy and add that together, that gives us the potential or the long run aggregate supply. So a couple things that we need to highlight about long run aggregate supply is that, number one, it represents our output at our full employment. And remember, full employment is the econ term that represents our potential GDP, or what our production could be if we're fully utilizing our resources. And when we're operating at that point, we often say that the unemployment rate is going to be between the 4 to 6% range. So I think that's an important connection that we need to make sure that we understand. Next, when we're graphing the long run aggregate supply curve, you can see the short run aggregate supply curve is always an upward sloping curve, and the long run aggregate supply curve is always a vertical curve. So that means that price level does not change that long run aggregate supply, or price level doesn't have an impact on the amount or the potential that we can produce. So then that leads us lastly to our LRAS determinants. And you can see that the only things that can change the potential output for our economy are a change in resources. And so you can see here that it's a change in the quantity of land, labor, capital, or a change in the quality of land, labor, capital, which really just means that we found a better way to train our workers, or a better way, a better type of technology. Things like that are things that lead to an increase in the quality of our land, labor, and capital. So oftentimes what you're going to find with our long-run aggregate supply curve is that it really is a measuring stick for our economy. It shows us where our economy is at compared to our potential GDP, or our full employment, if we're using all of our resources.